The West just opened its checkbook. $16 billion, $68 million, $63 million, 63. Deals are being signed. Mining firms are going public. The Pentagon is writing contracts. The G7 just met in Paris. Rare earth independence, critical mineral sovereignty, mine-to-magnet integration. Every word sounds like a solution. Every headline sounds like momentum. And if you read only the headlines, you would believe the West is finally fighting back. You would be wrong, because the West is not fighting back. The West is reacting, 30 years late, to a war that already has a winner. Critical minerals are not a commodity. They are not oil. They are not wheat. They are not something you can buy on a spot market and store in a warehouse. Critical minerals are the foundation of every military system that matters. Every precision-guided missile uses rare earth magnets. Every radar installation, every submarine propulsion motor, every drone, every fighter jet, every satellite, the Aegis combat system, the F-35 avionics, the Patriot missile guidance unit. None of them function without rare earth permanent magnets. And rare earth permanent magnets come from exactly one country. Not because China is lucky, because China planned. And it started planning in the 1980s. In 1992, Deng Xiaoping said something most Western policymakers ignored. The Middle East has oil. China has rare earths. He did not mean it as a geological observation. He meant it as a strategic declaration. And China acted on it. For 30 years, Beijing executed a coordinated industrial policy, subsidized mining, nationalized processing, trained a technical workforce, absorbed the environmental costs, built vertically integrated manufacturing. Not one part of the supply chain, all of it. Mining, separation, refining, metal production, alloy manufacturing, magnet fabrication. By 2025, China controlled 90% of rare earth refining, 99% of heavy rare earth separation, 92% of permanent magnet production. That is not market dominance, that is a structural monopoly. Built intentionally, over 3 decades, while the West did exactly nothing. Now the West is panicking. In May 2026, the G7 trade ministers met in Paris. One purpose: ensuring we are not held hostage by certain countries. The words belong to France's trade minister. They were not spoken quietly. The US and EU have signed a critical minerals partnership. Japan, India, and Australia are in a quad framework. Mining firms are rushing to list on American exchanges. USA Rare Earth, a proposed $1.6 billion in government financing. Rare Earth Americas, $63 million. Atlas Critical Minerals, on the boards. A deal rush, the Financial Times called it. Money flowing, headlines multiplying, politicians declaring victory. And beneath all of it, a problem. These companies are not producing, they are planning. A rare earth mine takes 10 to 15 years from discovery to production. A separation facility, 5 to 7 years. Magnet manufacturing, 3 to 5 years. Integrated mine-to-magnet capability, a decade minimum. Everything the West is celebrating today is a promise. And a promise does not power a missile. The people who understand the gap best are the ones who build the weapons, defense contractors, and they are already sounding the alarm. The Pentagon's DFARS rule bans Chinese origin magnets from all defense systems starting January 2027, 8 months from now. Defense contractors are asking for delays, not because they want to buy Chinese magnets, because there is no alternative. There is not enough ex-China magnet capacity on Earth to supply the US defense industrial base. Not in 2027, not by 2030, possibly not by 2035. The regulation was written as if capacity was a choice. It is not. Capacity is a physical thing. It takes mines, facilities, engineers, supply chains. Those things do not appear because a law demands them. They appear because a country spent decades building them. And the West spent those decades deregulating markets and outsourcing manufacturing. Now the bill is due. And while the West rushes to build, China is not standing still. In October 2025, Beijing imposed sweeping new export controls on critical minerals and processing technologies. In May 2026, Reuters confirmed those controls are permanent, institutionalized. Not temporary bargaining chips, not trade war leverage. Permanent national security architecture. China has also begun restricting heavy rare earth exports to Japan for months at a time. Not because of a specific dispute, because it can. The mechanism is built. The switch is installed. It can be turned on for any reason, or no reason. And the West is responding by writing checks that will clear sometime in the 2030s. Jack Lifton, co-chair of the Critical Minerals Institute, put it bluntly. The complete lack of understanding of the rare earth permanent magnet supply chain by Washington is only exceeded by their lack of understanding of mineral economics, facility design, and construction time. That is not a critic, that is an expert. Telling you the strategy is years behind the problem. Here is where we actually are. The West has finally admitted it has a critical minerals dependency problem. The money is moving. The alliances are forming. The G7 has a plan. The Quad has a framework. The EU has a partnership. And every single one of those initiatives requires something the West does not have: time. China did not build its critical minerals dominance with a deal rush. It built it with 30 years of patient, coordinated, state-backed industrial policy. The West is now trying to compress 30 years into 5. And defense contractors are already saying that is not fast enough. If the West succeeds, and that is an enormous if, it will have independence sometime in the mid-2030s. That is a decade of vulnerability. A decade in which every missile, every radar, every fighter jet depends on magnets. From the country the systems are designed to deter, everyone is asking the same question. Can the West break free of China's critical minerals dominance? It is the wrong question. The right question is, what happens in the 10 years before it can? Because 10 years is a long time. 10 years is enough time for China to tighten export controls further, to restrict processing technologies, to lock in long-term supply agreements with friendly nations, to make the gap wider, not narrower. The West is not catching up to a stationary target. It is chasing a moving one. China spent 30 years building a monopoly on the periodic table. The West just noticed. And it is writing checks that will not clear until the war it is preparing for is already over. Now you know. Subscribe. Share this. Every episode in this series reveals a different piece of the global power puzzle.